3, we've been studying the life of Elisha and different ways that God used Elisha. So where we are picking up with our story today is talking about some different kings' reigns. Jehoram's reign. The Bible tells us that he was a little bit better than his parents, but he wasn't good. Okay, he was a wicked king. But in this story, we have 3 kings who have joined together. Israel, Judah, and Edom have joined together, and the Moabites are coming up against them. So these 3 kings have met together, and Jehoram says, hey, let's go talk to Elisha. Let's get some wisdom. So verse 6 says, and King Jehoram went out of Samaria the same time and numbered all Israel. Verse 7, and he went and sent to Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, saying, the king of Moab hath rebelled against me. Wilt thou go with me against Moab to battle? And he said, I will go up. I am as thou art, my people as thy people, and my horses as thy horses. Verse 8, and he said, which way shall we go up? And he answered, the way through the wilderness of Edom. So the king of Judah, the king of Israel, they go together. They go to the king by the way of the king of Edom on their way, and they get him to join them in battle. So then they decide, okay, what should we do? And they go and they're going to talk to Elisha. Verse 11. But Jehoshaphat said, is there not here a prophet of the Lord, that we may inquire of the Lord by him? And one of the king of Israel's servants answered and said, here is Elisha, the son of Shaphat, which poured water on the hands of Elijah. And Jehoshaphat said, the word of the Lord is with him. So the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat and the king of Edom went down to him. And Elisha said unto the king of Israel, what have I to do with thee? Get thee to the prophets of thy father and to the prophets of thy mother. And the king of Israel said unto him, nay, for the Lord hath called these 3 things together to deliver them into the hand of Moab. We're almost done reading here, boys and girls. Verse 14, and Elisha said, as the Lord of hosts liveth, before whom I stand, surely were it not that I regard the presence of Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, I would not look toward thee nor see thee. So Elisha says, you came to see me, but you're not a good king. You followed your own way. You have followed your own gods. You should go seek them. But because Jehoshaphat of Judah is with you, I will talk to God on your behalf. I will see what God wants you to do as you 3 nations go against the Moabites. Well, verse 15 says, but now bring me a minstrel. And it came to pass when the minstrel played that the hand of the Lord came upon him. So he has music. He has a minstrel. He has someone come and play music for him, which reminded me, we recently learned in Teen Sunday School, Pastor Barbara was challenging us about how music affects us. You listen to certain music when you fall asleep. You listen to certain music when you want to get hyped up for a basketball game, and how music really does affect us. Well, in this case, Elisha listens to music so that he can calm down and hear what the Lord has to tell him. And the Lord gives them a plan. Now, these men at this time, boys and girls, we hadn't kind of talked about this yet, but these men were tired. They were thirsty. They were very thirsty. Okay, they needed water. They were exhausted. And what God tells them to do comes up in verse 16. It says, and he said, thus saith the Lord, make this valley full of ditches. Go out and work. Dig ditches, even though you're tired, even though you're hot, even though you're thirsty. Thank you, Peter. Thanks for bringing a shovel here to help us with digging our ditches. He tells them, you need to go out and you need to obey. Boys and girls, God often gives us things that we need to do and we need to obey. And then he does his part. We do our part and he does the miraculous part. Verse 17, for thus saith the Lord, ye shall not see wind, neither shall ye see rain. Yet that valley shall be filled with water, that ye may drink, both ye and your cattle and your beasts. Boys and girls, they're not going to see wind. They're not going to see rain. In other words, the storm's not coming, but those ditches that you dig will be full of water. Boys and girls, does God ever break a promise? He sure doesn't. God never breaks a promise. So if he says they're going to be full of water, they're going to be full of water. God was going to do his part. Verse 18, and this is but a light thing in the sight of the Lord. He will deliver the Moabites also into your hand. So, boys and girls, I'm going to speed it up a little bit to summarize the rest of chapter 3. I know I read a lot in the beginning, kind of setting up the background, but the three nations that are gathered together, the Israelites, those of Judah and those of Edom, they go to sleep that night. Now, in a couple of commentaries that I read said there was probably a flash flood up in the mountains that caused rainwater to come down. But as God said, it never did rain where they were. It never did storm where they were. But when they woke up in the morning, water came through. And it came to pass, verse 20, when the meat offering was offered, that behold, there came water by the way of Edom, and the country was filled with water. Those ditches that they dug were filled, so they got to drink, and their cattle got to drink, and they were relieved of that thirst that they had. Well, God uses the water not only for that miracle, but for another miracle. So the Moabites who were coming after them, the sun is rising in the morning and they look down and they see that valley. But boys and girls, the way the sun reflected off, or however God chose to do it, that water looked like blood. And they thought, wow, the Israelite, the nation of Israel, the nation of Judah, the nation of Edom, they must have fought each other. The three kings must have gone to battle. They must have fought each other. Well, boys and girls, that's not the case. It wasn't blood, but to the enemy, it looked like it. And long story short, the Lord uses that to allow the three nations to be able to go after the Moabites. They came down thinking they were going to get all the land. They were going to take over the three nations. But lo and behold, the soldiers were all still there with all three kings. And those three nations were able to overcome the Moabites, chase them out of there. Well, boys and girls, as we look at this story, God met their need. He provided for the water that they needed, although they had to obey when they were tired. They had to do hard work. They had to do their part and dig the ditches. God provided the water to provide their physical need, but also for their protection from the enemy. God wants us to do our part, but he will do his part, boys and girls. But we don't just get to sit on our couch and assume God's going to provide food for us. Our moms and dads have to go and work and do a job. We do our part, and God provides the rest, boys and girls. Also, it's important to obey even when we don't feel like it. Even when we're tired and we don't want to obey, it's important that we do what's right. We can see that throughout the whole Bible, boys and girls, the importance of obedience and how important it is to learn that when you're young. I know it's a little bit of a longer story, but we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Make sure this week you obey even when you're tired and don't want to.